Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Apex Dominion. The massive ship was longer than most cities and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Around him, his officers worked at their stations with the confidence of warriors who had never known defeat. "Sir, we have reached the edge of the target system," reported his tactical officer. "The human world is exactly where our scouts said it would be." Zethkar nodded and studied the display screen in front of him. The third planet from the star looked small and blue, covered mostly in water. It seemed peaceful, almost helpless. Hard to believe this little world could pose any threat to the mighty Corvani Empire. "How many ships do they have?" he asked. "Our long-range sensors detect very few military vessels, Commander, perhaps a few hundred small craft. Nothing that could threaten even one of our destroyers." Zethkar smiled. This would be easier than he thought. The Corvani Empire had conquered 17 star systems, each one falling within days of their arrival. The humans would be no different, signaled the fleet. "All ships are to maintain formation. We advance slowly and give them time to see what they face. Sometimes the sight of our armada is enough to make them surrender without a fight." The Corvani fleet was impressive. 300 ships of various sizes filled the darkness of space. The smallest vessels were still larger than anything the humans had ever built. The largest could carry millions of soldiers and enough weapons to level continents. On the third planet, deep inside a mountain in North America, Lieutenant Colonel Jake Morrison sat at his desk reading the morning reports. The coffee in his cup was still warm, and he had been looking forward to a quiet day. That changed when his communications officer, Ryan Clark, burst through the door. "Sir, we have a problem. A big one." Morrison looked up from his papers. "What kind of problem?" 300 alien ships just appeared at the edge of our solar system. They're moving toward Earth." Morrison set down his coffee and walked to the main display room. The huge screens showed the approaching fleet in detail. Each ship was marked with a red symbol, and the computer was already calculating their speed and weapons. "How long until they reach us?" Morrison asked. "About 24 hours at their current speed," replied Lisa Barnes, their tactical analyst. She was young but very smart, and Morrison trusted her judgment completely. Morrison studied the screens for a moment. The alien ships were certainly impressive, but he had seen worse during the war games last month. "Have we identified their technology level?" "Basic energy weapons, conventional shields, and what looks like standard propulsion systems," Barnes reported. "Nothing we haven't seen before." "Interesting." Morrison walked back to his office and picked up a secure phone. "Get me the president." Meanwhile, on the Apex Dominion, Zethkar was preparing his conquest speech. It was a tradition among Corvani commanders to offer surrender terms before battle. Most species accepted immediately once they saw the size of the fleet. "Open a channel to the human world," he ordered. The main screen flickered, and soon showed a simple room with a human male sitting at a desk. The man looked calm, almost bored. This surprised Zethkar, who was used to seeing fear in the eyes of his enemies. "I am Commander Zethkar of the Corvani Empire," he began in his most threatening voice. "Your world has been selected for conquest. You have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally. If you do not comply, we will destroy your cities and take your planet by force." The human on the screen nodded politely. "I'll pass along your message to the appropriate people. Is there anything else?" Zethkar blinked. This was not the reaction he expected. "Do you not understand? We have 300 warships. Your primitive world cannot hope to resist us." "We understand perfectly," the human replied. "We'll have an answer for you soon." The screen went dark, leaving Zethkar staring at his own reflection. His tactical officer approached carefully. "Sir, should we prepare for immediate attack?" "No," Zethkar said slowly. "We give them the full 24 hours. I want them to have time to think about what they face. Fear makes conquest easier. Back on Earth, the human who had spoken to Zethkar was Alex Thompson, a former Navy SEAL who now worked as a diplomatic advisor. He walked into the secure briefing room where President Martinez was meeting with the military leadership. How did it go? The president asked. Pretty standard conquest threat, Thompson replied. They want us to surrender in 24 hours, or they'll attack. General Peter Hayes, the senior military commander, looked up from his tablet. What's our response? President Martinez thought for a moment. Tell them we'll be ready. That's it, Thompson asked. That's it, the president confirmed. No need to say more. As news of the alien threat spread through the government, most officials began to panic. Emergency meetings were called, and some suggested immediate evacuation of major cities. But in the military command centers, the mood was different. Morrison returned to his office and found his staff working calmly at their computers. There was no sense of urgency, no fear in their voices. They had been preparing for this day for a long time. Sir, Clark called out, the alien fleet is maintaining their slow approach. They seem to be trying to intimidate us. Let them try, Morrison replied. Lisa, start bringing our systems online. Nothing obvious, just the standard defensive measures. Yes, sir. Should I activate the hidden platforms? Not yet. Let's see what they do first. Around the world, similar conversations were taking place. In military bases and command centers. The alien threat was real, but Earth's defenders were not worried. They had been expecting this day for decades. As the Corvani fleet moved closer to Earth, Zethkar felt confident about the coming battle. His ships were the most advanced in the galaxy, his warriors the most skilled. The humans might put up a fight, but it would be brief and pointless. He had no way of knowing that. Earth's peaceful appearance was carefully designed to fool exactly this kind of enemy. The humans had learned long ago that the best defense was to appear weak while being incredibly strong. The next 24 hours would teach the Corvani Empire a lesson they would never forget. They were about to discover that sending their elite forces against Earth was the biggest mistake they had ever made. But for now, both sides prepared for what was coming. The aliens expected an easy victory. The humans expected to defend their world. Neither side knew just how different their definitions of easy really were. The 24 hours passed quickly. Commander Zethkar stood on his bridge, watching the human world grow larger on the main screen. Still no signs of panic from the surface. No desperate attempts to contact other star systems for help. The humans seemed almost calm. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we are now within optimal firing range. Should we begin the bombardment? No, Zethkar replied. Send the vanguard first. Let Sub-Commander Velthor show these humans what Corvani warriors can do. Velthar commanded 50% of the fleet's most advanced warships. These vessels had never been defeated in battle. Their shields could withstand the explosion of entire stars, and their weapons could crack moons in half. If anything could break human resistance quickly, it was the vanguard. Vanguard ships, this is your commander, Velthor announced over the communication system. We advance in attack formation. Show these primitives the might of the Corvani Empire. The 50 ships moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charging and shields at maximum power. Velthar felt the familiar excitement of battle. This would be over in minutes. Far below, on a space station that looked like a simple research facility, Captain Amy Rodriguez watched the approaching alien ships with mild interest. Liberty Station was one of hundreds of civilian installations that orbited Earth. 2 alien sensors. It appeared to be nothing more than a scientific outpost. Captain, her weapons officer called out, we have 50 alien ships approaching. They're in attack formation. I see them, Rodriguez replied calmly. Are they within range? Yes, ma'am. Perfect range, actually. Rodriguez looked at her watch. It was almost lunchtime, and the cafeteria was serving her favorite meal today. She hoped this wouldn't take long. Very well. Activate defensive system. 7, ma'am. Just System 7. We have much more powerful weapons available. System 7 should be enough, Rodriguez said. Let's not show off on their first day. What the aliens detected as primitive kinetic weapons were actually something far more dangerous. The humans had learned to accelerate small projectiles to nearly the speed of light, using technology that the Corvani Empire couldn't even imagine. The first projectile hit Velthor's flagship, exactly 3.2 seconds after Rodriguez gave the order. The sub-commander had just enough time to see a small blip on his sensors before his shields, armor, and entire ship simply vanished. The relativistic projectile didn't just destroy the vessel, it erased it from existence. The other 49 ships lasted another 0.5 seconds. On the Apex Dominion, Zethkar watched in horror as his elite vanguard disappeared from the tactical display. Not damaged, not retreating, gone, completely gone. What happened? He demanded. I don't know, sir, his tactical officer stammered. They just... They're not there anymore. Scan for debris, survivors, anything. Sir, there's nothing, no wreckage, no energy signatures. It's like they never existed. Zethkar felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. His most powerful ships had been destroyed so quickly that his sensors couldn't even track what had hit them. Back on Liberty Station, Rodriguez checked her watch again. Total engagement time, she asked. 3.7 seconds. Captain, not bad. Any damage to our systems? No, MAAM. All systems functioning normally. Rodriguez nodded and picked up her communication device. Control, this is Liberty Station. Vanguard, eliminated. No damage to our forces. Should I prepare for the next wave? In the Mountain Command Center, Morrison received the report with the same calm expression he had worn all day. Acknowledged. Liberty Station. Stand by for further orders. He turned to his staff. Well, that was quick. Lisa, what's the alien fleet doing now? Barnes studied her displays. They've stopped advancing, sir. The main fleet appears to be... confused. Confused. They're not moving in any organized pattern. Some ships are trying to retreat, others are moving forward. Their communications are full of panic signals. Morrison nodded. They probably didn't expect to lose 50 ships in 4 seconds. Ryan, send a message to the alien commander. What should it say, sir? Tell him we're still ready to receive his surrender. On the Apex Dominion, Zethkar received a human message with disbelief. Surrender. They were asking him to surrender after destroying his vanguard. The arrogance was unbelievable. Sir, his communications officer said nervously. What should we tell them? Tell them nothing, Zethkar snarled. Prepare all ships for full assault. We attack with everything we have. Sir, are you certain? We don't know what weapon they used on the vanguard. It was a lucky shot, Zethkar insisted. It has to be. No primitive world could have that kind of technology. We advance with the full fleet. His officers exchanged worried glances, but followed orders. The remaining 250 ships began moving toward Earth in their most aggressive formation. Every weapon was charged, every shield at maximum power. Sir, the tactical officer said quietly, what if it wasn't a lucky shot? Zethkar turned to face him, his eyes blazing with fury. Then we die with honor, but I will not retreat from a handful of primitives. On Earth, the response was very different. Morrison received the report that the alien fleet was advancing and simply nodded. Amy did good work up there. Now let's see what they learned from it. Sir, Clark said, they're bringing their entire fleet. All 250 ships. Then we should probably respond appropriately, Morrison replied. Lisa, contact Admiral Hayes. Tell her it's time to stretch the fleet's legs. Barnes smiled. She's going to love this. Admiral Susan Hayes was on the bridge of the Constitution, a ship that didn't officially exist according to any government records. Around her, dozens of similar vessels were powered down and hidden throughout the solar system. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we have orders to engage. Full defensive deployment authorized." Hayes had been waiting for this moment for years. "Signal all ships." "This is not a drill." "Repeat, this is not a drill." Throughout the solar system, thousands of human vessels began to power up. Ships that had been hiding in asteroid fields, stations that had been disguised as space debris, and weapons platforms that had been invisible to alien sensors suddenly appeared. On the Apex Dominion, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Hundreds, no, thousands of ships." Sethkar stared at the display screen in shock. Where moments before there had been empty space, now there were more human vessels than he had ever seen in one place, and they were all moving toward his fleet. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "I don't know, sir. Our sensors showed nothing. How did they hide so many ships?" The answer was technology that the Corvani Empire had never dreamed of. The humans had learned to bend space and time itself, making their ships invisible to conventional detection methods. "All ships," Sethkar ordered, "prepare for battle. We may die today, but we will not die easily." Admiral Hayes received the alien battle formations on her tactical display and almost laughed. "They're still using conventional attack patterns." "How?" "Quaint." "Orders, Admiral," her tactical officer asked. "Standard defensive formation. Let's show them what a real space battle looks like." The human fleet moved with precision that seemed impossible. Every ship knew exactly where to go. Every weapon system fired in perfect coordination. It was like watching a dance performed by thousands of dancers, each one knowing their part perfectly. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted exactly 11 minutes. The alien fleet was systematically dismantled with surgical precision. Weapons that ignored their shields, tactics that turned their own systems against them, and technology that made their most advanced ships look like toys. When it was over, only a few dozen alien ships remained, their weapons disabled and their crews in shock. Among them was the Apex Dominion, its mighty hull scarred but intact. Sir Morrison's communications officer reported. "Admiral Hayes reports the engagement is complete. Enemy fleet neutralized." "Casualties?" Morrison asked. "Zero, sir. Not even a scratch on any of our ships." Morrison nodded and looked at his watch. The entire battle had taken place during his lunch break. "Send a message to the surviving alien ships. Tell them to prepare for boarding. We have some questions to ask." On the Apex Dominion, Commander Sethkar sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed the complete destruction of his fleet. His elite forces, the pride of the Corvani Empire, had been defeated as easily as children playing with toys. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "the humans are requesting our surrender." Sethkar closed his eyes. "Signal our surrender, and send a message to the High Command. Tell them we were wrong about the humans. Very wrong." The news of the Corvani fleet's destruction spread through the galaxy like wildfire. High Command on the Corvani homeworld received Sethkar's final message with a mixture of disbelief and growing terror. "Impossible," declared Supreme Commander Zarthel, the highest-ranking military officer in the Corvani Empire. 300 ships destroyed by a primitive world. Sethkar must be lying to cover his failure. But the evidence was undeniable. Long-range sensors confirmed that the human solar system now contained the wreckage of the Empire's most elite fleet. Worse, the surviving ships had been captured, their crews taken prisoner. "Sir," his aide reported nervously, "we're receiving similar reports from across the galaxy. Other empires are saying the humans are... different, more advanced than anyone realized." Zarthal slammed his fist on the table. Lies and cowardice. No single world could stand against the might of the Corvani Empire. We will gather every ship, every warrior, every weapon we possess, and crush these humans once and for all. The order went out across hundreds of star systems. Every Corvani ship was recalled to the home world. Allied species were commanded to contribute their fleets. Within weeks, the largest armada in galactic history was assembled in Corvani space. 10,000 ships filled the void around the Corvani homeworld. Massive dreadnoughts that could destroy entire fleets, carriers holding millions of elite soldiers, and support vessels carrying enough firepower to level continents. It was the combined might of dozens of conquered species, all focused on one target. This will be the final solution to the human problem, Zarthal announced to his assembled fleet commanders. We advance as one unified force. No world, no matter how clever, can stand against this armada. On Earth, the response to the approaching threat was almost boring in its predictability. Morrison, now promoted to general, sat in his expanded command center reading routine reports. The alien fleet had been detected while it was still assembling, and Earth's intelligence networks had been monitoring their preparations for weeks. Sir, his new aide, Lieutenant Danny Clark, reported, the alien fleet is moving toward our system. Intelligence estimates 10,000 ships. Morrison looked up from his coffee. 10,000? That's ambitious. What's our response protocol for this situation? Admiral Hayes is recommending Protocol 7, sir. Full capability demonstration. Approved. Signal all commands to prepare for Protocol 7 implementation. Protocol 7 was something Earth's military had never used before. It was designed to show the galaxy exactly what humanity was capable of when they stopped holding back. The previous battle had used maybe 1% of Earth's actual military capability. Protocol 7 would use considerably more. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge of the Constitution, but today she wasn't alone. Around her, holographic displays showed the faces of dozens of other commanders. Admiral Tony Martinez commanded the Pacific Fleet, General Kate Phillips led the Mars Defense Force, and Admiral Beth Williams controlled the outer system installations. Ladies and gentlemen, Hayes announced, today we stop playing games. The aliens want to see our full capabilities, so let's give them exactly what they asked for. The Corvani Armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, in a formation that had conquered entire star sectors. Zorthal himself led from the bridge of the Eternal Domination, a ship so massive it had its own gravitational field. There, he pointed at the small blue world visible on the main screen. That is the source of our humiliation. Today, we erase it from existence. His tactical officer studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. Sir, I'm detecting the same energy signatures as before. Thousands of ships throughout the system. Impossible. Intelligence reports indicated they had only a few hundred vessels. Sir, I'm now reading over 50,000 human ships, and the number is still climbing. Zarthal stared at the display in shock. 50,000 ships. How could one world build so many vessels? It must be an error. Run the scan again. Sir, new contacts are appearing every second. I'm now reading over 100,000 vessels. The truth was even more staggering than the sensors indicated. Earth hadn't just built a large fleet, they had built an entire military-industrial complex that spanned multiple star systems. Hidden shipyards, automated factories, and construction facilities that had been working for decades. Admiral Hayes, tactical officer, reported, we have full fleet deployment. All sectors report ready for combat. Excellent. Signal all ships to assume combat formation and activate the planet killers. On the Eternal Domination, every alarm in the ship began sounding at once. Sir, the tactical officer called out, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. Whatever they're preparing, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. Zarthel felt the first real fear of his military career. All ships, prepare for immediate attack. We strike before they can use whatever weapon they're charging. Sir, I don't think we have time. The energy readings are off the scale. The human fleet moved with a precision that seemed impossible for such a large force. Every ship knew its exact position. Every weapon system was coordinated with thousands of others. It was like watching a single, massive organism preparing to strike. The battle began with the humans, demonstrating weapons that could destroy entire sections of the alien fleet with single shots. Energy beams that ignored shields and armor, missiles that could track targets through hyperspace, and defensive systems that made their ships completely untouchable. Sir, the tactical officer on the Eternal Domination reported, we've lost the entire first wave. All 3,000 ships destroyed. Impossible. Launch the second wave immediately. Sir, the second wave is already gone, and the third. We've lost half our fleet in the first 5 minutes. Zarthel watched in horror as his mighty armada was systematically destroyed. Ships that had conquered star systems were being eliminated faster than his sensors could track. The humans weren't just winning, they were demonstrating that the battle was never in doubt. How is this possible? He whispered. The answer was simple. Earth had spent decades preparing for exactly this scenario. While other species had stagnated, humans had continued to innovate, to improve, to prepare for the day when they would face a galactic threat. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a message from the human fleet. Put it through. The main screen showed a human female in a military uniform. Admiral Hayes looked calm, almost bored. Corvani vessels. This is Admiral Hayes of the Earth Defense Force. You are completely outmatched. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Never, Zarthel roared. We are the Corvani Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds, and now you face one world that you cannot conquer. Hayes replied calmly. Your choice is simple. Surrender, or be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to decide. Zarthel looked at his tactical display. In the past 10 minutes, he had lost over 7,000 ships. The humans had lost exactly 0. Their weapons were beyond anything he had imagined, their tactics flawless, their technology centuries ahead of anything in the galaxy. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, we can't win this. We need to surrender. We are Corvani warriors. We do not surrender. Sir, look at the tactical display. They're not even trying hard. This is barely an exercise for them. Zarthel looked at the screen and realized the horrible truth. The humans were right. This wasn't a desperate battle for survival, it was a demonstration. They were showing the galaxy what happened when you threatened Earth. All ships, he said quietly, cease fire. Signal our surrender. The remaining Corvani ships powered down, their weapons and shields. Of the 10,000 vessels that had entered the system, fewer than 1,000 remained. The rest had been destroyed in 17 minutes of combat. On Earth, Morrison received the surrender notice and nodded, acknowledged, begin prisoner processing procedures, and send a message to the other galactic empires. Let them know what happened here. Sir, Clark asked, what should the message say? Keep it simple. The Corvani Empire has been defeated. Earth is now available for diplomatic contact. That should be enough. Admiral Hayes looked at her tactical display, showing the captured alien ships being escorted to detention facilities. Stand down to normal alert status, and someone get me a cup of coffee. All this excitement has made me thirsty. The Battle of Earth, as it would later be known, lasted exactly 17 minutes. The largest fleet in galactic history had been destroyed with minimal effort by a species that most civilizations had never heard of. The news spread across the galaxy within hours. Other empires, species that had lived in fear of Corvani might, suddenly realized that there was a new power in the galaxy, a power that treated their greatest threats as minor inconveniences. on the eternal domination. Now being towed to a human prison facility, Zarthel sat in his cell and tried to understand what had happened. How had his empire, which had dominated the galaxy for centuries, been defeated so easily? The answer, he would learn, was simple. They had encountered humanity, and humanity had been preparing for this day far longer than anyone realized. The galaxy would never be the same. The prison facility on Luna was unlike anything the captured Corvani had ever seen. Instead of dark cells and harsh treatment, they found themselves in comfortable quarters with access to food, medical care, and even entertainment systems. It was more like a hotel than a prison. Commander Zethkar, the survivor of the first battle, sat across from Dr. Kevin Walsh, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology. The human looked friendly and genuinely interested in learning about Corvani culture. "I don't understand," Zethkar said, gesturing to the comfortable room around them. "We came to conquer your world. We tried to kill your people. Why are you treating us so well?" Dr. Walsh smiled. "Because you're not our enemies anymore. You're our guests. We want to learn about your people, your culture, your technology, and we want you to learn about us. But we attacked you. Yes, and you lost. That's finished now. What matters is what happens next." Zethkar shook his head. "I don't understand your people at all. Any other species would have executed us or enslaved us. But you're giving us comfortable rooms and asking about our families. That's because we're not like other species," Walsh explained. "We don't conquer for the sake of conquering. We defend ourselves when attacked, but we don't seek revenge." In another part of the facility, Colonel Maria Santos was conducting a similar interview with Supreme Commander Zarthiel. The once leader of the Corvani Empire sat quietly, his arrogance replaced by confusion and something that might have been respect. "Tell me about the other species in the galaxy," Santos said. "How advanced are they compared to your empire?" Zarthel laughed. "Bitterly advanced. The Corvani Empire is the most advanced military force in the galaxy. We have conquered hundreds of worlds, defeated dozens of species. Our technology is centuries ahead of anyone else. And yet we defeated you in 17 minutes. "Yes," Zarthel said quietly. "You did. Which means either you're not from this galaxy, or everything we thought we knew about military power is wrong." Santos leaned forward. "What if I told you that most of the galaxy has been stagnating for thousands of years? That species have been using the same basic technologies, the same tactics, the same weapons for millennia? That's impossible. Technology always advances, does it? When was the last time the Corvani Empire developed a truly new weapon? Not an improved version of an old one, but something completely different." Zerthal thought about it and realized he couldn't answer. The Corvani had been using essentially the same military technology for generations. They had improved it, made it more efficient, but they hadn't innovated. We focused on perfecting what we had," he said finally. "And that's why you lost," Santos explained. "While you were perfecting old technology, humanity was developing new concepts. We didn't just build better ships, we built ships that your sensors couldn't detect. We didn't just make stronger weapons, we made weapons that your shields couldn't stop." Meanwhile, on Earth, the military and civilian leadership were dealing with the implications of their victory. General Morrison sat in a secure briefing room with President Martinez and the senior military commanders. "The problem," explained General Peter Hayes, "is that we may have revealed too much. The galaxy now knows that Earth is a major military power. Is that necessarily a bad thing?" President Martinez asked. "It depends on how the other species react," Morrison replied. "If they're smart, they'll want to establish diplomatic relations. If they're desperate or stupid, they might try to form an alliance against us." Admiral Hayes, Peter's sister, pulled up a holographic display showing the galaxy. "Our intelligence networks are already picking up increased communications between various empires. Some are calling for immediate diplomatic contact. Others are talking about a preemptive strike while they still can. And what's our response? The president asked. We continue as planned, Morrison said. We defend ourselves if attacked, but we don't go looking for fights. The galaxy needs to understand that we're not conquerors. We're just very good at defending ourselves. Dr. Walsh's interviews with the prisoners were revealing disturbing information about the state of galactic civilization. Species after species had been conquered by the Corvani, not because the Empire was particularly advanced, but because everyone else was so far behind. The Aldrani were once a spacefaring civilization, Zethkar explained during one session. They had colonies throughout their star system, but when we arrived, they surrendered immediately. They said their ancestors had forgotten how to fight. What about the Nexari? Walsh asked, referring to a species known for their scientific achievements. Brilliant scientists, but they had no military at all. They relied on defensive stations that our ships destroyed in minutes. They never even tried to fight back. Walsh was beginning to understand the scope of the problem. The galaxy wasn't full of advanced civilizations. It was full of species that had either never developed effective military technology or had forgotten how to use it. Doctor, his assistant, Lieutenant Jenny Cooper, said quietly, we're getting similar reports from all the prisoners. The galaxy is basically defenseless. That's not good news, Walsh replied. If we're the only advanced military power in the galaxy, we're going to become a target for everyone. The first diplomatic contact came from the Aldrani Republic, a peaceful species that had been enslaved by the Corvani decades earlier. Ambassador Carl Rogers received their transmission in the newly established Diplomatic Relations Center. People of Earth, the Aldrani representative said, we have heard of your victory over the Corvani Empire. We wish to thank you for freeing us from their oppression. Rogers smiled. We're pleased to make contact with your people. We would welcome the opportunity to establish formal diplomatic relations. We would be honored. But we must warn you, there are other empires in the galaxy. Some may see your power as a threat. We understand. We're prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. The Aldrani representative looked worried. You don't understand. The Corvani Empire was the strongest military force in the galaxy. If you defeated them so easily, you're more powerful than any civilization in recorded history. That will make other species very afraid. Rogers nodded. We'll deal with that when it happens. For now, we're interested in peaceful relations with all species. Over the following weeks, more diplomatic contacts were established. The Nexari Federation, a group of scientific species, requested access to human technology. The Trilani Consortium, a trading empire, wanted to establish commercial relations. But not all the contacts were friendly. The Zephyrian Alliance, a group of militaristic species, sent a very different message. People of Earth, their representative declared, your defeat of the Corvani Empire has upset the balance of power in the galaxy. We demand that you restrict your military capabilities to acceptable levels. Morrison read the message and almost laughed. Acceptable levels? According to who? Should we respond? Clark asked. Send them a polite message, explaining that Earth's military capabilities are defensive in nature and not subject to external control. The response came within hours. If you do not comply with our demands, the Zephyrian Alliance will take action to protect galactic stability. Morrison sighed. How many ships do they have? Intelligence estimates about 5,000 vessels across all member species. 5,000 ships against our entire fleet. That's barely a training exercise. Should we prepare for combat? Start moving some ships into position, but don't make it obvious. Let's see if they're actually stupid enough to attack us. The answer came a week later when the Zephyrian Alliance fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system. Unlike the Corvani, who had at least tried to negotiate, the Zephyrians opened fire immediately. The battle lasted 6 minutes. When it was over, The Zephyrian Alliance had ceased to exist as a military force. Their surviving ships were captured, their leaders imprisoned, and their member species left to contemplate the consequences of challenging Earth. "Sir," Clark reported to Morrison, "we're receiving surrender messages from 17 different species. They're all asking for mercy." "Granted," Morrison replied, "but make it clear that any further attacks will result in complete military defeat." Dr. Walsh continued his interviews with the growing number of prisoners. What he was learning painted a disturbing picture of galactic civilization. "The problem isn't that they're primitive," he explained to his research team. "The problem is that they've been using the same basic technologies for so long that they've forgotten how to innovate. They perfect what they have instead of developing new ideas. So we're not just more advanced." Dr. Lisa Cameron, his assistant, said, "We're the only species that's still advancing." "Exactly, and that makes us unique in the galaxy." The implications were staggering. Earth wasn't just a powerful military force, it was the only truly advanced civilization in the known galaxy. Every other species had either stagnated or been conquered by those who had. "What does this mean for humanity?" Cameron asked. "It means we have a choice," Walsh replied. "We can isolate ourselves and let the galaxy stagnate, or we can try to help other species advance. But either way, we're going to be the dominant power in the galaxy for the foreseeable future." On Earth, the leadership was coming to the same conclusion. The galaxy wasn't full of advanced civilizations waiting to be discovered. It was full of species that had forgotten how to grow, how to innovate, how to defend themselves. "We're not just Earth anymore," President Martinez announced to the joint session of world leaders. "We're the guardians of galactic civilization. The question is, what do we do with that responsibility?" The answer would shape the future of the galaxy for generations to come. 6 months after the defeat of the Zephyrian Alliance, the galaxy had settled into a new reality. Earth was now recognized as the dominant military power, and species across hundreds of star systems were adjusting to this fact in different ways. Some, like the Aldrani Republic, embraced the change. They had established trade agreements with Earth and were slowly rebuilding their civilization with human guidance. Others, like the remnants of the Corvani Empire, struggled to accept their new place in the galactic order. General Morrison, now promoted to Director of Galactic Defense, sat in his expanded office, reading the daily reports. What had once been a simple military command center had grown into the nerve center of galactic security. "Sir," his aide, now Colonel Danny Clark, reported, "we have 3 new diplomatic requests today. The hegemony of Krull wants to establish a defense treaty. The Stellar Collective is asking for technology sharing, and the Outer Rim territories are requesting our help with pirate raids." Morrison nodded. "Schedule the diplomatic meetings, and send a patrol squadron to deal with the pirates. Nothing too dramatic, just enough to clean up the problem." "Yes, sir." "The patrol squadron is asking what level of response is appropriate. Tell them to use standard protocols. These aren't military threats, just criminals with outdated equipment." What Morrison called standard protocols would have been considered overwhelming force by galactic standards 6 months ago. A single human patrol squadron could easily defeat most planetary defense forces. But to Earth's military, it was routine police work. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge of the Constitution, now serving as the flagship of the Galactic Patrol Fleet. Around her, dozens of similar vessels maintained security across multiple star systems. What had once been humanity's secret defense force was now the galaxy's primary peacekeeping organization. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving a distress call from the Nexari system. They're under attack by unknown vessels." "Unknown vessels. Run a tactical analysis." "Ma'am, the attacking ships appear to be using modified Corvani technology. Probably pirates using salvaged equipment." Hayes almost smiled. "How many ships?" "Approximately 50 vessels, Admiral. Send Captain Rodriguez and Liberty Squadron." That should be more than enough. Captain Amy Rodriguez, now commanding a full squadron of advanced human vessels, received the order while on routine patrol near the Nexary system. Understood, Admiral. Liberty Squadron moving to intercept. The battle against the pirates lasted 3 minutes. The criminals had expected to face the weak defensive forces typical of most galactic civilizations. Instead, they encountered military technology that was centuries ahead of anything they had ever imagined. "Ma'am," Rodriguez's tactical officer reported, "all pirate vessels disabled or destroyed. No casualties on our side." "Standard result," Rodriguez replied. "Begin rescue operations for any survivors." Back on Earth, Dr. Walsh was conducting his regular interview with former Supreme Commander Zerthal. The Corvani leader had become surprisingly cooperative, even helpful, as he began to understand the new galactic reality. Dr. Zerth said, "I've been thinking about what you said regarding galactic stagnation. I believe you're correct. The Corvani Empire stopped innovating centuries ago. We became comfortable with our dominance. And what do you think caused that? Success, perhaps. When you can conquer any opponent with existing technology, why develop new technology? We became lazy." Walsh nodded. "That's exactly what happened to most galactic civilizations. They reached a certain level of technology and stopped advancing. Some were conquered, others simply stagnated. But humanity continued to advance. Why? Because we never stopped being challenged. We never became comfortable with our achievements. We always assumed someone out there was better than us, so we kept improving." Zarthal was quiet for a moment. "And now you are better than everyone. What happens next?" "That depends on what the galaxy chooses to do," Walsh replied. "We can help other species advance, or we can let them remain as they are. But we won't conquer them or force them to change. You could, though. You could rule the entire galaxy if you wanted." "We could," Walsh agreed. "But we don't want to. We prefer to be left alone, to pursue our own interests." The interview was interrupted by an urgent message from the Diplomatic Relations Center. Ambassador Rogers had received an emergency communication from the Outer Rim territories. "Dr. Walsh," Rogers said over the communication system, "we have a situation. The territories are reporting a massive fleet moving through their space. Size unknown, but they're asking for immediate military assistance." Walsh looked at Zarthal. "Any idea what this could be?" The former Corvani commander thought for a moment. "There are rumors of species from beyond the galactic rim, civilizations that never made contact with the rest of us. If they're real, they might be more advanced than the Corvani." "How much more advanced?" "I don't know. But if they've been developing in isolation for thousands of years, they might actually pose a threat to your people." Morrison received the report with the same calm expression he had worn during the previous crises. "How large is this fleet?" "Preliminary. Reports suggest over 20,000 vessels, sir. And they're using technology our sensors can't fully identify." "Interesting. Admiral Hayes, prepare the fleet for deployment. Let's go see what we're dealing with." "Sir," Clark asked, "should we mobilize the full fleet?" "Not yet. Let's start with a standard response force and see what happens." The human fleet that moved to intercept the unknown vessels was larger than anything the galaxy had seen since the Battle of Earth. 2,000 ships, each one more advanced than anything the Corvani had ever built, formed up in perfect formation. "Admiral." Hayes stood on the bridge of the Constitution, studying the sensor readings of the approaching fleet. Tactical analysis. "Ma'am, their ships are definitely more advanced than anything we've encountered so far. But they're still using conventional technology, energy weapons, standard shields, basic propulsion. So they're more advanced than the Corvani, but not as advanced as us." "That appears to be correct, Admiral." The first communication from the unknown fleet came as they entered the Outer Rim territories. The alien commander appeared on the main screen, his species unlike anything previously encountered. "I am War Chief Thakmer, of the Dominion Fleet," the alien declared. "We have come to claim these territories for our empire. All local species will submit or be destroyed. Admiral Hayes responded calmly. I am Admiral Hayes of the Earth Defense Force. These territories are under our protection. You will withdraw immediately. Thokmar laughed. Earth, we have never heard of your species. You dare challenge the might of the Dominion. We don't challenge you, Hayes replied. We're simply informing you that your advance stops here. Then, you will be destroyed along with the others. Attack. The Battle of the Outer Rim lasted 14 minutes. The Dominion fleet, despite being more advanced than previous opponents, proved no match for human technology and tactics. Their 20,000 ships were systematically dismantled by a force 1/10 their size. When it was over, Hayes sent a simple message to Morrison: threat neutralized. New species defeated. Awaiting further orders. Morrison read the report and checked his watch. The entire crisis had been resolved during his afternoon coffee break. Send a diplomatic team to the surviving ships. Let's see if we can establish peaceful relations with this Dominion. The aftermath of the Battle of the Outer Rim sent shockwaves through the galaxy. If the Dominion, with their advanced technology and massive fleet, could be defeated so easily, then humanity's military superiority was absolute. Species across the galaxy began to reconsider their relationship with Earth. Trade agreements were proposed, defensive alliances were requested, and some civilizations began asking for help in developing their own technologies. We're not just the dominant military power anymore, President Martinez announced to the Global Council. We're the galaxy's teacher, protector, and guide. The question is, are we ready for that responsibility? Morrison stood before the assembled leaders of Earth's nations. The galaxy has shown us that we're not just advanced, we're unique. We're the only species that has continued to grow, to innovate, to push the boundaries of what's possible. And what does that mean for humanity? Asked the representative from the European Union. It means we have a choice, Morrison replied. We can remain isolated and let the galaxy stagnate, or we can help other species reach their potential. But either way, we're going to be the guardians of galactic civilization. Dr. Walsh's final report on galactic civilization was sobering. Most species reached a certain level of technology and stopped advancing. They became comfortable with their achievements and lost the drive to improve. Humanity is the exception. Why are we different? Asked Dr. Cameron. Because we never stopped being afraid, Walsh explained. We always assumed someone out there was better than us, so we kept pushing forward. We never allowed ourselves to become comfortable. And now we know the truth. We're not just the most advanced species in the galaxy, we're the only truly advancing species. Everyone else has been standing still for centuries. The implications were clear. Earth had become the galaxy's protector not through conquest, but through necessity. They were the only species capable of defending galactic civilization from threats both internal and external. As Morrison sat in his office, reading routine reports about minor incidents across dozens of star systems, he reflected on how much had changed. What had once seemed like humanity's greatest threat, the Corvani Empire, had become just another. Tuesday at the office, the galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. When you send your elite forces against Earth, you should probably bring more than elite. You should bring something that hasn't been seen in the galaxy for thousands of years. The ability to truly innovate, to adapt, to grow. But as Morrison closed his daily reports and prepared to head home, he couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere, in the vast galaxy, there might be another species like humanity. Another civilization that had never stopped advancing, never stopped improving, and when that day came, Earth would be ready. Because that's what humans did. They prepared for challenges that might never come, and they never stopped getting better. At meeting them, the galaxy was safe, for now, and humanity would make sure it stayed that way.